So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to the court. Municipal buildings this afternoon. Our first item of business today, we have a public hearing on a bylaw. It is the Victoria County Yard Sale Bylaw. It is the second reading. We need a motion to open the hearing, please. Moved by Deputy Warden Daphne, seconded by Councillor McNeil. All in favor? Contrary minded, the motion is carried. The hearing is now open. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak against the yard sale bylaw? We have two people, so I will ask you to come forward and speak if you wish against. Yeah, and then Loretta can come with you. Are you speaking as a couple, so to speak, as two, or are you speaking individually? So please state your name and state your case. Right there, yeah. And you speak into the mic, you can sit down, speak into the mic, and if the green button is on, you're live. If it's red, press the button and the green will come on.
Okay, hi, I'm Marion Thompson. I live in Indian Brook, and I didn't realize I was going to be speaking to everybody, but that's great. I just found out about the bylaw 2 days ago, and I didn't have any background on it, so maybe I'm sure I'll learn things here today, but might be too late to do anything about it. What I did see about the bylaw was that certain restrictions are going to be in place for starting a yard sale, ending it, signage, that kind of thing. And living where I live, the people who do yard sales are all organizations that support me as a senior. There's the church, the fire department with firefighters and medical first responders. They get money from yard sales. There's the health center. It's all part of us. It's the community. We raise a few extra dollars. And I was like, what are they doing? Why would they want to take that away? Or why would they want to make it more difficult? Because we're all doing this as volunteers, you know, anyone running the yard sale. So I thought, I'm going to go to the council meeting, just see what you guys have to say. And I'll wait to hear what you have to say. If you're able to respond, maybe it's too late. I don't know.
No, we can, and
Okay.
Thanks for coming and showing interest in the issue.
And before I do, I just like to thank you all for doing your job. Really appreciate it. Also, thank you to the gardeners that do a beautiful job outside. Should I just go and sit back there now, Bruce?
No, I think just as we give you kind of an explanation, and if you have any follow-up questions, we'll allow for those. So the yard sale, it is somewhat restrictive. It puts guidelines on it. You can still have them. You can have them for you can still have them up for up to 3 consecutive days. We've just restricted the time from 8 to 5, and any posters or signs shall be removed after the yard sale. So it's not like we're eliminating them if that's what you thought we were doing. But what it does do, it allows us to govern so that they can't start the 1st of July and end on the September 30th.
Oh, yes.
So it gives us a little bit of leeway to be able to, more or less, for lack of a better term, police them, keep them short in duration, keep them during the day, make sure whatever was taken out is put back, and it allows us to keep the property where the yard sale was being held to be kept nice and neat and tidy and in its original condition. But that's the intent of the yard sale.
Okay, so if the cutoff in the day is 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock, there is a chance, I mean, a penalty could be imposed if it ran an hour or two late. I mean, in theory.
Yeah.
The tone of it was like, it just seemed like a block was being set up for community involvement. But I mean, I hear what you're saying. That hasn't ever happened in our community where we've had a yard sale go on.
It has happened.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it's as a result of that happening, and that's why we've decided we would incorporate a yard sale. And we just used one that was very similar from another community.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So it's happened in this community, but would that make it possibly a Baddeck community issue instead of a huge Victoria County issue.
I guess in theory, but for us to capture it from Iona to Bay St. Lawrence, it's just as easy to incorporate it all as one.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Loretto, did you have something you wanted?
Turning so I don't know where front is. So, I don't object to the idea of the bylaw specifically. Oh, I'm Loretta Doyle in Red Cove. The idea of having this kind of regulation is not a problem, but surely it would be covered in the land use bylaw. Like the necessity for a separate bylaw escapes me. So I figured it should be in the land use bylaw. If it's not there, the land use bylaw is not complete. And I'm also thinking we don't have a noise bylaw so far. I think that's what the community standards bylaw is going to be if it ever comes in. So all of that would be covered, I would think, by other legislation. So why add more?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's more of an enforcement issue, and I'm not sure if there's anything. you
I
wanna
think
add.
you'll have enforcement though, and under the land use bylaw, you'll have a bylaw officer, I think.
We will have bylaw officers, yeah. To be quite honest, that consideration never came forward. I think at the time we were looking strictly at dealing with a couple of specific issues, a
It
couple of
does feel
specific
kind of like a
properties.
Specific circumstance, yes.
Yeah, and that's what it stems from. I mean, we've since 1889, we haven't had a yard sale bylaw seriously until it became an issue in one of the districts, and as a result, we decided to move forward with the yard sale bylaw.
So I have to also toss out that I think this kind of thing and lots of other stuff like it, land use bylaw especially, doesn't make enough of a distinction between most of Victoria County and the hamlets. So noise, for example, at my house, you probably wouldn't even know I was home if I was having a jamboree. You know, I have 100 acres. My nearest neighbor's a kilometer away. In Baddeck, that might be an issue, you know? So I think there has to be some consideration given for where you are or what the circumstances are, how densely populated is the area you're regulating. And I think this kind of heavy hand, this fist, it just doesn't work for us. It's not conducive to neighborliness, you know?
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
No, thank you for your opinion, and appreciate that. And like you say, this one is strictly in regards to yard sales.
No questions.
Anybody else have any questions or comments in regards to being opposed to the yard sale bylaw? Does anybody wish to speak for the yard sale bylaw? Anybody wish to speak in favor of the yard sale bylaw? For the third time, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the yard sale bylaw? Hearing none, it's up to council now to vote whether we had to approve the second reading of the yard sale bylaw for the municipality of Victoria County. So we need a motion to be in favor to move the second reading.
I make a motion, we move to second reading.
It's been moved by the deputy warden, seconded by
I'll second that.
Councillor McDonald. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The second reading of the Victoria County Yard Sale Bylaw has been approved. We need a motion to end the hearing, please. Moved by Councillor McNeil, seconded by Councillor McLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded? Hearing is over. Thank you. We'll be starting council at 2 p.m.
The steering. The only thing is,
All right, we're going to convene council, please. I'll ask you to take your seats, please. Councillor Patterson, as a former school teacher, take your seat, please. Listen, I may as well sign it right now and just one copy. You said. So good afternoon again. We are going to call the Victoria County Municipal Council meeting for Monday, September 16th to order. And just prior to opening the meeting, we wish to acknowledge that this meeting is being held in Unama'ki, one of the 7 traditional districts of the Mi'kmaq and ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So with that, the agenda has been circulated to you in advance of the meeting this afternoon. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, we're going to go in camera after the last item on the council agenda. Any other items to be added and or deleted? We're good. Can we have a motion to accept the agenda as circulated? It's been moved by Councillor Longva. Do we have a seconder to approve the agenda, please? Seconded by Councillor McLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. And the agenda has been approved. Just prior to opening of the meeting, just if I could for a minute, is the last council meeting that I'm going to chair. I will not be available for the meeting in October. And I just want to express my appreciation to the current councillors. If you're reoffering, good luck. And those of you, whether you were here 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, or 17 years, I want to thank you very much for your friendship, your support of this county, and the support and the leadership you provided not only in your community, but in your municipality as well. So with that, I also want to thank the staff. We have an excellent staff, and without their support and direction, advice, opinions, it certainly has made the journey for the last 4 years and for me over the last 25 plus years. So I appreciate their support as well. So with that, We're good to open the meeting? You wish?
Just want to say, Bruce, I think comes back from us to you also for your guidance and stuff over the years, and greatly appreciate it. And the friendship that you've provided us all was greatly appreciated. And especially Leanne and Alex and staff, how they've straightened up the finances, and we finally are in positions that we can actually do something. I really appreciate all the work you guys have done. So kudos to you and to the staff and to the rest of the council. I greatly appreciate it.
That's good, and thank you. We good to start our council meeting? Thank you, Deputy Warden. So with that, we have a presentation this afternoon from the Cape Breton Regional Library, and we have Lisa and Aaron here today. And they have a presentation that can bring us forward just in regards to potential changes and direction that they're looking for a library in Ingonish, I do believe.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Mulak, and I'm the Regional Librarian with the Cape Breton Regional Library. I've been here before, so thanks for having us back.
And I'm Erin Phillips, the Victoria County Library Supervisor.
So Aaron and I just want to provide an update on where things stand with the Ingonish Library. Last spring, we came to council to discuss a couple of outstanding issues, and one at the time was the Ingonish Library and the fact there was no washroom in the building for the public. Prior to that presentation and discussion, we heard that the building would no longer be available to rent as a library April 1st, 2025. So the lease would not be renewed. So that opened up another discussion to be had, of course. So in the meantime, since that spring council meeting, Aaron and I had met with community representatives in Ingonish to begin trying to find a place for the library, because as you recall at the time from people, Larry especially, Councillor Daphne especially noted that there really isn't a lot of space in Ingonish for a library. And we had heard that from others as well. So we were a little concerned, of course, going into it. And we had met with the Ingonish Development Society in June to have that discussion, just to sort of put our feelers out in the community, because we don't live there. And so to hear from people in the community what locations might be available. And they were very receptive to us attending their meeting and very encouraging and supportive of the library as a community hub. And so that was in June, and over the summer, Aaron and I worked with Councillor Daphne, and thank you for taking our impromptu phone calls, even as you're going over the ferry and that sort of thing. So we worked with Councillor Daphne and to try and locate some locations that would be suitable for the Ingonish Library. We also heard from a number of residents over the summer that sent messages through to the library just to tell us how important the service is, and that they were supportive of the library and that they wanted to see that the library would, the transition to a new space would be seamless. And so Aaron and I decided we should plan a community meeting, because we know that there's a fair bit of seasonal population in Ingonish. So we had a community meeting on August 29th. And thank you to the council that was present at the meeting. There was 55 people at the meeting, and it was very supportive, overwhelming support for the continuation, of course, of the library and that seamless transition. There were a lot of questions around the process. So how does this happen? What's the role of the municipality? What's the role of the library? And how can we help? And one of the things that came out of the meeting was a steering committee. So we wanted to update you on where things are going with the steering committee and what work has been done through the steering committee as well, and our purpose, the end of the committee. I said I wasn't just going to go off the top of my head, but I just did. So let me check my notes. So recognizing the urgency, the committee members hit the ground running immediately, and councillors would have received a package of information prepared by the steering committee that highlights key pieces of information that are required to ensure the library is relocated within the next like the very short time frame of 6 months. And the committee recognizes that, of course, the time frame it's a quick turnaround, but there's also a new council coming in October, November. So the steering committee has prepared for council a proposal of a timeline that will ensure that the library is relocated in a space that is suitable for library services and meets the community's need with no interruption in service. Okay. So the purpose of the committee, our goal is to relocate the library before the lease expires in April and ensuring uninterrupted service. The committee is made up of community members, north of Smoky, as well as library staff and board members who in partnership is working to develop a sustainable community-based, community-focused relocation plan. So we've said this many times, Aaron and I here, the importance of the library, and we're a little biased though, maybe, right? So, and I know councillors recognize this too, how important the library is. And it's this exact message that we're hearing from the community. The feedback we receive from the community is the library is important to the residents of North of Smoky. You'll also read that in the package of materials that were circulated to council, there were 9 supporting letters echoing this exact message. It's an essential community hub for learning, connection, and growth, and it's an essential piece of social infrastructure that will ensure the continued growth and vitality of the community. At our presentation, Aaron highlighted, so at the community meeting, Aaron made a presentation. And so in that presentation, she did highlight things around statistics around that there's a 20% increase in visits at the library, and then overall a 26% increase in borrowed materials. Despite the library not having that dedicated community space where people can sit and have a program, whether it's a story time or a book club, it's still recognized that it is a community hub in Ingonish, and somehow they still do carve out some type of meeting space. We met there last week in the current space, and it is small, but we took over, right? But it doesn't serve well when you're looking at, if somebody wants to meet and have, a confidential meeting, or whether that's, to write an exam or have a doctor's appointment. And so those are the sorts of things that a programming room could accomplish in the community. Oh, did I move forward? Okay. This is my slide or your slide? I have notes. Okay, so in the slide, you'll see that there is a timeline identified by the steering committee that will ensure that a new location is secured and ready for an April 1st opening. We see the dates that are identified there as essential, given the time constraints and an upcoming election. So we have been working, Aaron will talk a little bit more about locations, but we have been discussing with the Ingonish Fire Department about their location, the fire hall, as a potential location. And again, I don't want to take away from what Aaron wants to share with everyone, but some of these dates line up with what the discussions we have had with the fire department. So we see, if the fire hall is the location to move to. We would like that by January of 2025, that a lease would be signed and the fire department can carry out the necessary work to allow for a library to open in April. Thoughts? Or-
Oh, just, yeah, can you, yeah, advance for me? Thanks. Okay. So just in terms of what we're looking for in a library building, just briefly, these are the main things that we need to make sure the library has. Accessibility is one of the key things that we need to make sure that the library building has. We need to make sure it has an appropriate electrical capacity, an open floor plan. We also looked at things like the location of the library in terms of like how convenient is the building, how visible is it from the road. And when we looked at some buildings, we kind of looked at, okay, well, what kind of work do they need? And do they need a lot of work to become a library space? Do they need just a few minor upgrades? How much parking do they have? And then are there any other additional benefits to the space in terms of like, do they have other things like a kitchenette or storage rooms and things like that? So we looked at all of these things and have like a little checklist to go through as we were looking at different spaces. And if you want to go to the next slide, just so the spaces we looked at, and if you were at the community meeting, you know, like a lot of buildings came up. And a lot of the suggestions weren't actually viable options either. They weren't available to rent, or like the Rona building came up a few times, but it isn't available to rent until for a couple of years, I think, that they have a lease. So one of the other buildings we did look at that we knew was available was the Bean Barn. And that building is quaint, but a little too cozy. And it also does need a lot of renovations to get it back up to what we would need for a library. And so when we compared that to what the fire hall has, the fire hall is a great location. It's in, you know, that north end of Ingonish, which we heard from the community was a really nice to have for people who actually live further north and in Neils Harbor or anywhere further. They prefer that location in that end of Ingonish. And also the fact that the fire department is really interested and supportive as well. They talked to us about a plan where the library, they would build a dividing wall and the library would be in part of the building, but we could still access the bathrooms and the additional meeting space when we needed to, and they can use the meeting space for their rentals that they would still like to have. So we kind of looked at it as like a win-win situation for us. It's a community-based situation where, you know, we'd be supporting or the municipality would be supporting the volunteer fire department as well with rental income. And the renovations that they would need are not extensive. They a little bit of electrical upgrade, maybe some heat pumps, and they're going to build this wall. They also have, the fire department does have the benefit of having many skilled tradespeople as on the volunteer team already. So I think that it will all be, you know, they have people who can do the work, and I think the costs will be reasonable. Their plan right now is to do some assessments to come up with what their costs will look like. And then the hope is to come back to council in November with more of a specific detailed outline of what the costs would be, what the ask from council would be in terms of what the rent would be. Okay. So that was pretty much the state we're at so far today, is that we've, you know, things are looking good. We'd like to support the fire department and the fire hall as a location and work towards that resolution. From council today, the committee thought it was a really good idea to show, to have a statement of from council today that would show that you are supportive and that we can come back to in the next council to say, okay, this is an ongoing issue that that's been known that council is going to support. So the committee did draft a proclamation. I don't know if any councils have had the chance to read it.
We just, to be quite frank, we just got it this morning, so a couple of us didn't see it until lunchtime. So has everybody had a chance to look at it? So yeah, do you want to read? Can you?
I can read it out.
You can read it from, if you can see it, you read it.
Okay, I'll read it out, and I will just pause at the be it resolved part because, okay. So here it is, proclamation, support for Ingonish Library relocation. Whereas the municipality of the County of Victoria recognizes the vital role that public libraries play in fostering community engagement, providing educational resources, and offering an accessible, safe space for residents of all ages. And whereas the library located in Ingonish serves communities and residents of districts 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 from Englishtown to Bay St. Lawrence. And whereas the Ingonish Library, a cornerstone of our communities, is required to move from its current location due to the termination of its lease. And whereas the Library Steering Committee has undertaken with diligence and practicality a comprehensive effort to identify appropriate potential solutions for relocating the library to better meet the needs of our community, while recognizing the documented upward trend of usage of library usage by these communities. And whereas the municipality of the County of Victoria is committed to ensuring that library services remain uninterrupted and that the transition to a new location is carried out smoothly. And whereas the support of the Municipal Council is crucial in prioritizing and facilitating this important community initiative. And whereas the staff of the municipality of the County of Victoria are called upon to exercise their full professional duties and responsibilities to ensure that all necessary support, both practical and technical, continues in partnership with the Cape Breton Regional Library, enabling the incoming council to expeditiously address this matter as an urgent priority and take the necessary decisions to meet the deadlines required for a seamless transition of library services. And whereas the clearly demonstrated interest and needs of the communities north of Smoky emphasize the importance of a full-service library located in Ingonish as a fundamental municipal service. And then therefore be it resolved, whoever wants to put this forward, do hereby proclaim that the relocation of the Ingonish Library is a priority for the municipality and call upon the council to support the Library Steering Committee in their efforts to secure a new location and ensure a seamless transition.
Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
So just the proclamation has been presented for our consideration. So are there any questions? I mean, we'll make a decision today one way or the other where we proceed with it. Are any questions in regards to content clarification, et cetera, by council? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden. No, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. You said there were 55 people in attendance at the meeting, which to me is a very impressive figure. Usually you have to be doing something really wrong to get 55 people to show up. So, and I guess the whole notion, if you've been watching the Cape Breton Post lately in CBRM, where they're having the debate over the library or not, and you're getting people saying that it's a waste of money, you don't need libraries anymore, and so on. I think that's patently false. I let my library card lapse for a while, but I wanted to get a book, and I got it reactivated. And the services that are offered are unbelievable. I mean, I didn't know libraries do all these things. Libraries, when I was in school and in university, I thought librarians couldn't speak. All they could do was go, shh. You know, they were like churches almost when I was there. But they were used, well used, and I think today with all the services that are offered by libraries, I think the 55 people that showed up represent a large part of the population, and they will use it. And even the figures you have where visits have gone up and more materials. So anyway, I would support the proclamation.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Warden. Oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Warden, then we'll go to Councillor McLeod. Sorry,
No,
Councillor, I
I
didn't see it.
support the proclamation also. I just want to say the organization, the English Fire Department, is an excellent location. I know originally we had talked about doing it temporary if they couldn't find a location, so I'm very happy now that they're looking at it full time. But the big thing is the funds, any rent or anything goes back into the community because it will support them in providing fire services. So congratulations on finding a good location. I think you got the one nail on the head with that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Councillor McLeod.
I know the library is very important and I'm very support of the libraries, but just a question about, they say, the municipality country committee ensure the library service remain uninterrupted and that the transition to the new location carry out smoothly. So what happened, like more like we're talking about money, financial, or we're talking, what can the smoothness you're talking about?
I think just to ensure that there is a lease signed for a new location within enough time for us to go ahead and move in on time without, because I think that the residents are particularly concerned that if that new location isn't secured right away before April, then
who need to secure it? The committee will security or us
It would,
staff have to
yeah,
do it?
it would be, I would say that what will happen is that the fire department, based on their assessment and their appraisal, will have a recommendation or a financial ask around what they'd be looking for per square foot for rent. In addition, there would be some renovations as well.
Yeah.
So we should have that information in November. And of course, council would have to approve. It would be an increase likely from what Victoria County pays for rent now in Dinish.
Yeah, just because we're going elections, we don't know if we're going to sit down here in November.
Yeah.
So if we sign the all go smoothie for the next council, we say, okay, you're talking about money, you're talking like it's approved. I don't know how financial, if we talk, I don't know, financial, so.
Yeah, I like the concept of it.
Yeah.
And I think that we should be working together because I believe that it is very important. I just think that it might tie our hands a couple of the words there, like we can strive to make sure that there's a space by April, but as you said, there's spaces that just aren't available now. So we can strive to look at the Ingonish Fire Department, but if it's not ready, does that come back on council that they didn't have it ready? So in theory, it's good. I think it's just, there's a few words in there that just might be a little hand tying.
Yeah, because I don't know if you have your budget, but you don't know if council will approving that. So because we saw it with another project, right? Like this is the budget, but sometimes it doesn't happen and we have to back. But we are talking right now, like for me, I'll read it in my interpretation is like we're going to do whatever happens to have that in that time. So things happen. So I don't know if staff can check it out with library, just worth it a little better that proclamation. But for clear, I'm very supportive of the libraries, but we, it's just a little in general, my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to offer? Councillor McNeil.
Thank you. By the end of council, I'll remember. I've got one more meeting to learn this. But thank you for the presentation. And the question I have is with the Ingonish Fire Department, and I'm sure this was talked about too. There's a couple of fire departments in the county right now looking for extra space and looking for I wonder, did the fire department take that into account when they're looking at the library, to have the library?
They have two separate buildings there. One is made for community events that they hold, and then they have a building for their apparatuses and stuff. So it's two separate buildings altogether. This will actually help them out because they do like Christmas teas and different fundraisers to raise money for the fire department. So the rent coming in will probably eliminate some of that need, but they'll also save some space for those other events. So space is not an issue with them as far as their equipment or anything like that.
Councillor Longba.
Well, I'm in full agreement that with the library being in the fire department, but is there a way that we could change the wording right now so we could go ahead with the proclamation? Because I think they need some kind of, the group and the library need some kind of confirmation like now so they can keep going forward. But if there's a word or two that could be changed, could we do it now so we could accept it?
No, I absolutely agree. And if I could just add to it, I know Jackie or Councillor Organ, did you want to, I have a similar comment, but did you want to say anything, or are you?
I'm worried about the wording too,
Yes.
and not only financial. I mean, it might be out of our hands if we agree to it and the renovations, something comes to a stop and they can't get the renovations done till June or something. Is that going to come back on council? Just like I said, few little words there. Like
And
it's great that it's going to be staying in initiatives.
And I just want to add, I think we're all supportive and we all agree, and you've captured your comments captured what was said at that meeting 100%, and we're very supportive collectively. But also, as you mentioned earlier, there is an election next month, so we don't want to make a commitment that it would be unfair to a new council. So rather than get caught up on the wording, I think it's that the municipality commit to, or I like CAOs, like we can give you support in principle. And then that support in principle is carried to the next council, and they would have to commit to it because they're going to be the ones that are going to be doing the budget deliberations. They're the ones that are going to be making the decisions, and they're the ones that the steering committee would have to come back to with the financial ask and all the details that go with it. So I think I also agree that we can change our, is there wording that you can live with, that we can live with? Are you okay with strives to, commits to, or are you hard and fast on the wording the way it is?
Whatever like needs to be changed, I understand what, the hesitation and it makes perfect sense. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we could just wordsmith here for a second
Yeah.
with the proclamation. So do you want to?
Well, I think that you could, just like you did with the North Shore Fire Department at the last meeting, you could make a motion that staff engage with the library, with the regional library, to go forward with planning on another location and bring forward but and work out budget details as well as renovation size, et cetera.
Would that work for you?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Just wanted to make sure for Colby knows what the wording change is in the proclamation, because once we make the proclamation, we vote on it and it becomes.
Doing the proclamation, we're going to do a motion.
We're going to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to do the proclamation today. Okay, that's fair. So.
Well, I think too, the proclamation could be used as kind of a template or a blueprint, but it may not be exactly the same as is presented here.
So just thinking ahead, we do the motion of support in principle today, then the proclamation would follow at the next council meeting once the.
I kind of feel that you only need a motion to
Not
have
the
staff
proclamation.
engage
Okay.
on this.
Yes, it
And bring it
at
back
the
to
end of the day,
council.
it does the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So does somebody wish to make a motion of support and principle for the regional library board with
I make
their
that,
initiative?
I make that motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Organ. Do we have a seconder for that, please?
Okay.
Seconded by the deputy warden. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Thank you very much and appreciate it. We look forward to working with you for the next month and the next council beyond. So next item at council on the agenda this afternoon, we have Parker Horton here, and he's with, he's going to be doing a presentation with Gardner Pinfold. So we'll ask Parker and company to come forward and introduce your co-presenters this afternoon, please. And those folks that are with you this afternoon, Parker, welcome to Victoria County Council this afternoon.
So thank you, Warden, council, staff. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. We ventured on this feasibility study related to EV chargers in the municipality quite some time ago with your direction and guidance from our strategic planning session. We had 3 stakeholders at the heart of our interest, which was tourists coming to our region, business operators, and then the sustainability from a municipality perspective. We created a request for proposal that went for tender. Gardner Pinfold came with the most fulsome proposal, and we've been working with them closely ever since to see what is viable, what is feasible. Do we go forward? Do we not go forward? What makes sense? And all that information. So it's an ever-changing field. We get new information on a regular. So this presentation, I'm going to hand it over, but we're really looking for guidance, feedback, asking good questions. That's going to help us finalize our business plan, the scope, and everything when it comes forward for final recommendations. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Gregor. He can introduce his team and do the presentation.
Thank you, Parker. Welcome, Gregor.
Thank you and good afternoon. Best wishes in your next adventures after your last meeting, Warden.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, councillors, staff, and guests. I am joined by Ken Magnus of Sydney, an associate of Gardner Pinfold, and someone who has 4 terms as a council member. So can probably relate to your perspectives today. And Dylan Jean-Jacques is also on our Gardner Pinfold team. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with Parker. And I would say, you know, we've covered a lot of ground, but as he mentioned, we are not done. So we definitely want to have today as an opportunity for you to kind of get a sense of what we've been working on, the level of detail and scope that we've, you know, put together for this exercise, and get your, you know, questions and input as we finalize this. I will try and distill, you know, several months' work in 15 minutes. Just a quick, you know, just so you know what we covered. I'll just mention kind of what the overall goal was. I know Parker touched on that. I'll describe a little bit the general approach, mainly so that you get a sense of kind of the credible analysis that we do. Paint a picture of the charging network as it is today in Cape Breton. Vehicle patterns, traffic patterns, talk a little bit about what this means from a financial perspective, getting into charging infrastructure, but also the economic side, which is really that tourism piece, how you could play a role working with other municipalities and partners here on the island, and a little bit about the next steps. So just in terms of that goal, just to be clear, you know, we were asked to really look at the feasibility of setting up more charging infrastructure for Victoria County. And then asking, is that, you know, if there's a model that could work for Victoria, is that scalable in any way to other parts of Cape Breton? What funding sources are out there to help with the incredible costs of charging infrastructure? Because it's not for the faint of heart. We did 39 site visits, I think, around Cape Breton, on-site assessments. And that's a combination of people who already have chargers so that we could learn from them what their experience has been, but also others who are interested in hosting charging infrastructure, and they could be partners and interested participants. And then, yeah, just the financial and economic piece. We will, you know, if all of that makes sense up to that point, we can provide a business plan for municipal involvement in charging infrastructure and some implementation steps. And we're, you know, I've got check marks all the way down to that last bullet, you know, because we've definitely gone to depth all the way down to that point, but haven't looked at implementation. You know, we welcome your input before we flesh that out. Just to give you a sense of how thorough it's been, tons of document review, recent studies, what's going on in the world of EV infrastructure development, talking to all the key players in the province, Nova Scotia Power, the province, provincial government, electricians, engineers, the network providers like Flow or ChargePoint that run the network. That's sort of the payment systems and connectivity. I mentioned the site visits, working with the electricians and engineers to get, actual costs for sites that we've looked at. And then with all of that, we have developed some financial analysis. And then, we are all just initially checking in with the other municipalities to see what their level of interest is, but there would be more work there, assuming it's of interest. You could reach out to others to see how you could work together. And then the funding and business plan. Now, I'm going to apologize. Oh, okay. No, the first one's okay. Just a map. This is what the stations look like in Cape Breton today. There are orange and green flags there. The orange ones are level 3 chargers, so they're faster. You have one at your Needs store here just down the road, and level 2s are slower, but still, very useful, and also the type that people would put on their homes if they're charging at home. There are a couple of the orange dots that are planned. So in talking to Nova Scotia Power in the province, a couple of those dots are ones that we think are coming. But anyway, it just gives you a sense, and there are some already in Victoria County. But now we're thinking about what else needs to be added. Where do you go from here? And there's really 2 key parts to that. I apologize. You don't have to worry about the detailed numbers. I'll just point out a couple things from this. The first thing is really distance. So when you're driving an EV, it's about your range. How far can you go on a full charge or what you have in the battery, in the tank, so to speak. And if you see the table has 2 parts. There's a top triangle and a bottom triangle that's divided by the white or blank cells. The bottom is one-way distances. So if you're just kind of passing through those communities, that's sort of one-way distances, and the top is just simply doubling that. It would be a return trip. And we've looked, if you kind of go from left to right across the top, it's like coming in to Cape Breton at Port Hastings, and maybe you go up, through to Waikagama, or you go up, along the coast of Inverness, Cabot Cliffs Golf Course, Chebucto, and so on, or you come up to Victoria, Wagmatcook, Baddeck, Ingonish, or you're going up kind of the other side of the island to get to Sydney, Louisbourg, St. Peter's. Just want to leave you with a sense that that's how we're looking at it. What are the trips that people are taking and what distances are they traveling? And the first thing is, so I apologize if the colors aren't totally clear, but some are red to mean that you would absolutely need charging with an average EV. When you're going over 300 or 400 kilometers, you're going to need a charge on that return trip up in the top right-hand corner cells. Yellow ones, it's definitely going to be helpful, depending on, how much charge you started out your trip with. So you see lots of yellow in the table on the return trips in the top triangle and on the pass-through trips in the bottom. And then there's some green, you can just kind of pass through some communities because they're short distances, and no need to worry. There are 3, like Wagmatcook, Baddeck, Ingonish up at the top that I have in a box. And those same 3 are in a box on the left side, just to identify the ones in Victoria County that are, red, yellow, and a couple green. So immediately I get the sense that there's a need for charging in Victoria County. Now, this is just distances. The next thing is, but how many vehicles? Like if it's only a few, you don't need as much, but if there are a lot of traffic, you're going to need more. So again, apologize for all the numbers, but those same communities are down the left side, Port Hastings, Waikagama, Cabot Cliffs, and so on. The We have some average daily traffic from the provincial government in the third column. And the main thing to take away from this is the next 4 columns. So today in 2025, the rough percentage of electric vehicles of all the traffic is about 3 or 4%. So in this area, 40, 50 cars going, in this area going by that are EVs. Now, this is developed with another consulting firm and NRCan, but by 2030, that's going to quadruple. So you see it goes from roughly 4% up to 16% at the top of the table by 2030, then 40% by 2035, and so on. So we're going to quadruple in 5 years, triple again in the next 5 years, and then it starts to level off a little bit. And that all has to do with Canada's push for more EVs. And you would want to be thinking about how maybe today's chargers around the island meet that small amount of traffic, but that's going to grow. There's going to be more need in the coming years. So that's the main takeaway there. And certainly, adding 1 or 2 fast chargers, at a couple locations in the county and in other parts of the island are going to be helpful in the coming years. So we started to look at a specific scenario. What could you do specifically as Victoria County? And I think there's 2 parts to that. It's what you might need right here in the county, but you're playing a part, certainly from a tourism perspective, with Inverness and other parts of the island. So in order for this to work, you will have to work together. Like there will be a need for the network to kind of grow, in tandem with other parts of the island. So, for instance, this is looking at adding 8 level 2 and 8 of the fast chargers, level 3, at 4 different locations. It could be in Ganesh, more added here in Baddeck, and maybe Inverness and Chebucto, or another location. But pick, say, 4 sites, and the way funding is working at the federal level, they want you to put 2 fast chargers at each site. So that's part of the logic behind those numbers. Pick 4 sites, add 2 fast chargers, 2 slow chargers, and kind of that would be the next logical step. We did some homework to come up with some sort of financial analysis that would help you think this through. These sorts of things, I won't go into the detail of this slide, but this is the kind of thing you have to feed into that. And then on the next slide, you'll see basically 3 columns. You see level 2, the fast charger, which is level 3. There are ultra fast chargers, but we're leaving that out of the picture right now. And then sort of a total financial column on the right. If we're looking at those 4 sites with, the 8 fast chargers and 8 slow chargers, altogether about $1.5 million in capital costs. There are funding opportunities. So the federal government is offering 50-cent dollars. So you can cut that in half. The province may top that up with another 25%, and there might be some additional funds if it's located on First Nation land, Indigenous land. So there are opportunities to get that down to a more reasonable number. At the moment, I just have 50-cent support, like 50% support in there. And if you go down to the bottom, just the payback period, for level 2s, it's a little bit less, 9 years. And for the fast chargers, it's a little bit better, 7 years. I would say if you were a business, that's not fantastic. That's doable, but that's a pretty slow return. I think to some degree, there's sort of a public value, to building out this infrastructure. And I will add to that, the next slide is the tourism piece. So if in the top table, I just have the number of vehicles that would be coming to all those 8 4 sites and 8 stations in the run of a year. And let's just say at the level 2s, people spent $10, and at the level 3s, people spent $20. While they're charging, they go to a cafe or they get a bite to eat or they purchase something. Altogether, something on the order of $150,000 in spending near that charger. Let me just go back a slide for a second to put that in perspective. Here, the revenue, if you look on the net cash flow line on the total, it's 73,000. I just say that because the spending, not at the charger, but at a local business, is probably going to be double. There's more benefit to the local businesses. And the other piece to this is if for some reason you're not building EV infrastructure, charging infrastructure out, and it presents a barrier to tourists, then you start to lose things like they're spending on accommodations and, local, entrance fees and, other tourist spending that happens in the area, not just the charging spend. Anyway, all of that to say, we've got the pure financial piece and also the tourism piece. And my last 2 quick slides is really about, having talked to those 39 different, potential hosts of chargers or existing hosts, like they're all very enthusiastic and keen. If there is an interest in building more chargers in the area, they'd be willing hosts. They would also possibly pitch in for some of the costs, and some of the site costs would be theirs more so anyway. Other municipalities seem keen, but we're just at a preliminary stage. And then, there was a question of whether you might create a different entity to do this. It's not required, but we also looked at that a bit as well. And just in terms of where we are now, there is a funding application in the works. We'll continue to talk to some of the other entities, deliver a final report and business plan if that makes sense. And that's it for today. So if you have questions or input, we certainly welcome that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation, and we will open it to questions if there are some. Councillor Patterson, start the questions.
Thank you, Warden. Thank you, Gregor. Just the distinction between the level 2, the fast, and the ultra fast. I'm assuming that's the time required to charge. So what would the number of the times be for those 3?
Sure. So if you plug your car into the wall, we'll call that level 1. A level 2 is like plugging into 10 plugs. And a fast charger is like plugging into 50 or 60 plugs. So the time goes from, I have an EV, so I now know this,
Acquired during the study.
Yeah, coincidentally, just acquired it after starting. With that single plug, it'll take 65 hours to charge the car. With a level 2, it'll take 9.5 hours. And with a level 3, it'll take about 1 hour. So that needs charger down there is really useful. Certainly for someone on the road.
I think it's important that you showed the payback times too, because that was one of the questions. I just had a thought. If the location of them, and you said they go for a bite to eat or whatever, if you install them at motels or hotels, you could probably get away with level 2s, right? Because people would go to bed hopefully sometime and plug their car in and have it ready to go in the morning for them. So I think, strategically like that, that might be a suggestion. The other thing, and I've heard, I actually saw a documentary on TV, and I've heard from personal experience, the wait times can be quite long, especially if a Ford F-150 comes in to charge up. Apparently, they take a lot more charge than most vehicles, most of the smaller vehicles anyway.
So just a couple things you mentioned there. Maybe I'll go backwards. So the Ford F-150, those ultra fast chargers that we're not really talking about, that's for them. And that's, the future will be, charging at an ultra fast charger, and it's still a reasonable time, like maybe a half hour, 40 minutes to kind of top up the vehicle. A fast charger will help, but they'll be looking for the ultra fast ones. Your previous question around the hotels is true as long as someone is staying overnight. So even for us coming here today, like we charged in New Glasgow, but I won't be staying overnight. So that level 3 in town is what gets me back. And anybody who's doing a day trip, return trip, or, passing through on a longer trip, they will still want.
You should leave your cell number with Parker so we can go rescue you if you make it home.
Sure. Yeah.
He made it.
Yeah. And I'll make it back. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Councillor McNeil.
Like I said, one more meeting. Just with the locations again, if you go back to the map, you see right in the middle of Cape Breton there's no charging stations at all, basically right up to Iona area, right into Sydney. And I'm there, like the traffic in the last 5 years has increased in that area. And I know there has been EV traffic increase throughout the area too. And they're looking for a charging station throughout that area. So I wonder if that was looked at when that area was looked at when you're doing the study.
So we did look primarily from your point of view, like Victoria County. So it's going to be, I think, 3 things. Most of your traffic is going to be from Sydney, and anyone who charges up in Sydney can at least get to Baddeck and start a trip around the Cabot Trail or get to where they need to go. Or it's going to be someone coming from off island through Port Hastings. And I think, that doesn't necessarily picture into it. There will definitely be a need for more chargers in Cape Breton Regional Municipality. I think that'll be coming, and it'll just happen anyway. But like in terms of supporting, Victoria County and what you need.
He's talking about Iona, which is in Victoria County.
In Victoria.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Again, the Nova Scotia Highland Village there, which gets between this year, they probably up to almost 30,000 visitors.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering about a charging station in that. So.
Yeah. Well, I know the push is for hubs. So, even just the fact that you've already started with some level 3s here in town, and I think there will be some in Chebucto and in Ganesh, the idea is eventually those sites will have like 4 or 6 or 8. And from an EV point of, like a driver's point of view, that's ideal, because my biggest worry is I'm going to arrive and there's one station and somebody's at the station using it, and suddenly I've got to wait a half hour for my turn. I want to arrive and there's 4, so the odds of me getting one are pretty good. Now, I'm not saying couldn't put one, where you're describing, but probably initially it would be to build out in the locations that we're kind of starting with.
Yes.
Questions or comments? Go with Councillor Longa and then Councillor McDonald, please.
I was just wondering if, is this the ones that already exist, the ones that are you're showing on the map, or the ones we already have?
Except a couple of the orange are ones that, the province province told us were coming.
And the one next door here at Linwood, or by Needs, where that is the ultra high charging one, is it?
That's a level 3, not the ultra.
Not the ultra. So how long would this one take? It would take 8 hours or something?
No. So this one is, like, I'd still call that a fast charger.
Okay.
So for me, I can charge, from if my tank is down to 20%, I can get back up to 80 in 40 minutes or something like that.
Okay. And I was here for Festival Baddeck, and I was with a friend who has an electric car, And so she went to charge there, but there was already someone else charging there. But then there seemed like was a few places to plug in, but her plug-in wouldn't work. Like, because it would only work for one of the connectors, but there seemed like there was a few places that were potential to plug in.
Yep.
But there's a different kind of connector, so she couldn't plug in because the one that she was in use, the
Yep.
one that was the same as hers.
Yes, that could be.
Mhm.
And that's why we would want another charger. Like if the one she needs is occupied, yeah, having another one alongside it would help.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
Yes, thanks. Great presentation as it's all evolving quite quickly with EVs and that. Just outside of the Highlands National Park, which is one up in the northern portion there. Is that a level 2 charger and where would that be located?
The green ones
The
are
furthest
level
ones.
2, so yeah, up around
Roughly where
like
would
Bay
that
St.
be at?
Lawrence and.
Is there
uh,
one in Bay St. Lawrence?
Sorry?
Is there one in Bay St. Lawrence?
Yep. Yeah.
Because there is one in Dingwall as well.
And yeah, and the one in Ingonish is not, the level 3 is not there yet. That's one of the proposed ones, and same with the Chebucto one, but.
So I guess my question is, what is it that determines outside of, like you stated, out of the towns, like you said, Ingonish, Baddeck, further than that, what determines locations to place these? Like say Meat Calls gets a substantial amount of traffic, summer tourism. So there's no EVs up there to my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, traffic is everything in, it'll be tourism and local traffic.
So those folks have to go to Ingonish to charge their vehicles?
If it's a resident, I mean, they're probably charging at home for the most part. And a fully charged vehicle, you know, from Bay St. Lawrence could get to Sydney or down to Inverness. That'd be okay. It's more the people, like, yeah, for tourists trying to get around, I think you'd really want the fast chargers in Ingonish and in Chebucto to make sure they have enough to get around. You could even fully charge from Sydney and get around to Chebucto, or you could fully charge in Baddeck and get around to Ingonish. Like you can do but as long as there's enough to connect that loop.
And that would be with the level 3s, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are level 2s, like Parks Canada has quite a few on some of the trails there. And that works if someone's going to a trail and hiking for, 4 hours, 5 hours or whatever, you could get quite a bit of charge out of a level 2 if you're there long enough.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor McLeod?
Presentation is very interesting. I work in the food industry too as well, and I see all the time they're just parking and they're looking for chargers, and because they're going to the CAO Trail. So your site you're proposing is 4 sites, 2 and 2.
4 sites, yeah, with 2 at each one.
2 each, so it will
Yeah,
be 8.
8.
8, 2 around the south and 2 in north in Victoria County.
Yeah, there's some flexibility to the locations, but certainly within Victoria County, at least 2 locations, and then it might make sense to work with Inverness, because I think you're going to be dependent on each other for that whole tourism loop to work.
And another question is, you're talking about the future. So the infrastructure we put right now in BEST will be, we can use it for the faster eventually. Well, of course, with the upgrades, but will we build it to see ahead in the future for the ultra?
Yes. So when the costs that we have in there are for fast chargers,
Okay.
and it even builds the capacity to add more fast chargers in the future. So if you want to go from 2 to 4 or 6 in the future, like it would be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna have one point on that. So for example, with the funding application, which will be going in on Friday,
Mhm.
that's based upon those 4 sites with 2. As you mentioned, those sites are not yet determined. The benefits of having that larger network, which encompasses the entirety of the Cabot Trail and surrounding areas, is a part of that concept. However, the feedback and guidance we need going forward is, what are we looking to invest in? So perhaps we say, okay, well, you know what, we don't want to do the 4. We have a lot of really good supporting information here that we can share with Inverness and say, you need to make these investments for these reasons. And we shift our approach and say, now we have 2 locations in Victoria County with 4 and 4. And the funding that we're requesting for is the same. The payback periods are comparable and whatnot. So there's still a lot of flexibility in our approach here. And whether the site does change and we add Highland Village and Baddeck, like, we have all that flexibility with the council direction. It's just creating the sustainable business model right now, which is the focus to say, does this make sense, is a key part of the study.
And just in the winter is fine. Winter time, I don't know any electric. So in the winter time, charge -20 is good.
Yep. Yep. I mean, there's some disadvantage operating in cold conditions just for the vehicle, but no, people will charge year round.
Okay.
Yep.
And they use very conservative numbers when looking at our usage rates. So the usage rates are at the lowest 5% utility rate, and that was also broken down further by saying we're only looking at a total of 193 equivalent. So 250 days. So we even took the calendar year, dropped it down lower, and then went with the lowest utilization rate for the financial model, just to give a higher degree of confidence.
No, that's great. No, it's amazing.
So I'm not sure if Leanne has a couple of questions just before we end the conversation. Just a couple of quick questions. Like, technology changes every month. So in 5 months' time, if we install the latest, do we have to, is it just a matter of upgrading, or do you have to replace? Like, do you have to repeat the infrastructure over and over, or is it just?
No, so with charging stations in North America, they are all converging on one technology. It's like, nobody, we don't want the different plugs, we want everybody to be able to plug in, make this as easy as possible. So actually that's getting simpler, not less or more risky.
So,
and it's really about basically getting power from Nova Scotia Power, like getting it from the power utility into your car. And, however we do that, it's going to be the same job at the end of the day, going forward.
And the other question is, when you talk about selection of sites, is that something you recommend, or is that something council decides on? Is it you make recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, what we put together, we'll say this is the best information we have, and we give it to you, and support you in whatever decision you want to make next. If you want that to be worded, in a certain way, we can frame it up. But
yeah, I guess my concern, I'm sorry, like, it's 184 miles around the Cabot Trail, 300 kilometers, and I'm thinking in the middle of July, you could have 200 electric vehicles or 100 electric vehicles, and it's not like you can pull into the gas station and 5 minutes later you work your way to the front of the line to the pump. So I think a lot of residents are concerned about that, even when they're thinking about purchasing electric vehicles, because it's about access to the locations that you can power up the car. So I like your idea with Inverness County when you kind of look at the bigger picture, but that's something that will have to be discussed with them, I guess. So I'm not sure if you have any questions or not before we wind it up here.
Yeah, I do. So I just want to do a little bit of a recap. So this is the feasibility study that was funded. We had a grant for it. So this is the study that has come back on that. So next steps, I'm assuming you might be getting to that point on there, but so the wide angle concept of this is that's the current map. And then wherever, if council's choosing to go forward with this project, either as an owner and purchasing them and selling them to other areas of the island, because we could do that. So ideally what's going to happen is all these EV drivers are going to be looking for a map that shows them where the different charging stations are. And if we don't have them, then they're not going to choose to come here. So we someone has to do this, because if we're looking for that tourism. But besides that, if we're going to go forward, maybe it's a combination of we own and lease, or we are in charge of it. So we're on the beginning stages of this, where it could be something that is a good investment, as it said, 6-year or 7-year return on investment, which is also good for tourism and for the residents. So I'm assuming you're going to get to the next stages of this. And just so everybody remembers, also in our strategic priorities that we set, responsible infrastructure was one of them. So this is also a step in that direction.
We didn't put the slide together, but that next step you're referring to is we will need to come back when it's final and present the final findings and make that presentation and get that clear pathway forward. That initial concept which Gregor mentioned about having a municipally owned EV charging corporations that buys these and explores the opportunity as an investment strategy for the municipality to put them in Yarmouth, put them all over the province, is not going to be a recommendation that we're making based upon the information found. It is viable, it's sustainable, it's a low risk investment, but it's not a high yield return. So we're not saying this is a strategy that we want to network all of Nova Scotia, but we can certainly play a role, and it's very sustainable within Victoria County. I like to see the network expand. There is expression of interest from the other municipalities. So as we get the final report, we can come up with a couple courses of action, get feedback, and make a decision. Because, like I said, it is changing so quickly. There's new programs and funding. So the business plan that we'll have and completed in November will be relevant in November. We have to stay on top of it and keep making informed decisions and leverage the programs and support to put this critical infrastructure that we need in place.
Does Inverness currently, are they looking at this as well? The municipality?
I'm not tracking that they have an application in place for this funding that we're doing, for example. So say we were successful in the funding for all the charging that we did, and we opted to put 50% in Victoria County. This is for staff to figure how does that agreement look. If it's a 7-year return on investment, perhaps it's a 5-year lease, we recoup the funding, we enhance the infrastructure. There's so many ways we can collaborate, but we want to make sure that we can leverage this support and go from there. So until we have these things back, we're going to be responding, but at least we're developing a comprehensive plan that's backed by numbers.
So what's your expectation for council today?
We wanted the feedback, and we're looking to finalize reports so we can make the recommendations to council. So all the feedback from today will be taken in. We'll finalize the study. We'll make the recommendation, and then that'll come forward. Hopefully, I'd say November, once things settle a bit. Is that like the study will be done before then, but it's going to be council again for the new council.
Exactly. So it's kind of an intro up to provide today.
And the feedback's essential, shaping this. So if there's any key pieces of information that you think we're missing, anything that we need to incorporate or that he hasn't mentioned, that's where we want to hear that. So we're not coming to the stage where we're presenting and we've overlooked something that's critical to your district.
Okay. Councillor McNeil. Is your mic on, please?
See, if the federal government changes, will this funding support dry up, which could possibly within the next half year or so could happen?
I think it's at risk regardless of who the federal government is. Yeah, it won't go on forever.
So like, for example, this funding that we're applying for, you have a 3-year window to utilize it. And it's non-committal in nature. So we're putting the request forward. If we get the funding, perfect. If we use it, great. However, if next council decides that's not for us, but that's fine. We're not in a bad position either way, but there's a 3-year window on this funding application we're going for, but there'll be other avenues, and as they come up, we'll just stay informed. But this is the first one we're trying to leverage.
But I think, sorry, Councilor McDonald has another question, comment.
There's a question that popped up. Is it possible for other stakeholders to invest in that? Certainly.
Yes.
Other than outside the municipal units?
Yep. I mean, other businesses are already doing that, like Petrocan and hotels and yeah.
But thank you. So obviously we think there's a business case here, just in the impact on tourism plus what the residents are looking for as well. We have provided our feedback to you this afternoon. Is there anything else that might be relevant that we may have overlooked?
The only thing I mentioned to Leanne is we'll be drafting a letter for the CFO, which will outline, it's just a requirement in the application that says the municipality was interested in applicable, but we're going to draft that so we can have it done before the deadline, which is on Friday.
Anything else for these folks? Okay, well, thank you very much for your
Thank you as well.
presentation, and thank you very much for the update. It's exciting. Thank you. It is 3:17. We're going to take a 10-minute break till 3:27. Convene council, please. So next item up in council is a chance to approve the minutes of the August 21st council meeting. Those minutes were circulated to you. Were there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Hearing none, can we have a motion to approve the minutes of August 21st? Moved by Councillor McDonald. Seconded, please.
Second.
By Councillor Longa, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion's carried, the minutes are approved. Turn it over to Leanne for the CAO's report for this afternoon.
Yeah, so I just have a few things to report on some motions that were made at the last council session. So in Paul's district, Mercer Lane is the registered name, but there is mail going to an old road name. So yeah, so we're gonna look into see if we have to update that or what the changes are for that. But Mercer Lane is the official name. Warden, you had a question on the hospital zone. There is no such thing as a speed reduction in a hospital zone, but Steve is investigating putting up hospital signage for that.
Good, thank you.
There was a question on the Iona washroom funding. Dan is working with the group over there on that. District 4, Barb, garbage allowance. If there's bags that aren't being picked up, it would mean that they are over their bag allowance and they should be looking into purchasing bag tags related to that.
I have a question on that. If you have 2 PID numbers, then do you get twice this amount of garbage?
You could put it at, there's only one PID there.
Yeah, there is only one,
Yep.
but I think they're looking in. Is that something you can potentially do? Because they do have a residence there and it is a business. So is it possible to get 2 PID numbers?
So they could subdivide their land if they.
That's what they'd
so
have to
chose.
do?
Yep.
They'd have to subdivide.
Yep.
Their land to get to.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, Councillor McLeod, you had a question on a sewer smell being reported. That's been reported to Keith Bain and
Yeah.
he's working on that.
They call me back.
Did they?
And just for clarification, the smell is for the seaweed is dead, so it's in both locations, so he
Okay.
was very helpful.
Okay. I believe that it was you, Warden, there was burning concerns and picnic park signs. Well, there was 2 different spots. I've contacted Morley McNeil on these items and I'm waiting a reply related to that. Okay, so there was a motion for meeting to discuss with the North Shore Fire Department on the next steps to discuss the old school property. I did have a meeting with the chief and the deputy chief. I believe that the motion said that we would look at leasing the property to them. Is that still what we're looking for? I guess I need direction on if we're leasing or if we're subdividing the land and giving them a piece of it.
I think the issue was we have a policy, but we retain any waterfront. So in light of, if we want to follow our policy, in light of turning the property over to them, they seem to be in agreement of inexpensive lease for a period of time.
We also have the ability to subdivide that land and give them the front piece that's by the road. So I just need more clarification on which direction that we're planning on taking because it's different.
Yeah,
It'd be different
that's
legal.
what I would recommend is subdividing so we keep the water frontage and like $1 lease but what I would do is just sign the land over to them. If it doesn't include the waterfront, there's no reason we couldn't just sign the land over to them and make it their.
Yeah, and they're in agreement to either way. I just needed more clarification on that. So
do you want to clarify that motion, please, Deputy
Yeah,
Warden?
I'll make a motion that for the North Shore Volunteer Fire Department that we subdivide the land and then transfer ownership of the highway side of it to the North Shore Fire Department. I'll make that a motion.
Do you have a second for that?
and that
Just a comment, Warden, would we have a right of way to that front piece? Is that what we're looking
We
at,
have
the
to,
water?
yeah.
You have to get the subdivision
There's enough
approved.
room
Yeah.
to do that, is there?
Yeah. We would only give them the
there's 6 acres.
sufficient amount that's minimum legally required by planning commission. Yep. We good with that? And I think there is a sewage system and a water supply on that, so that would be consideration maybe as well. I don't know. that would be part of it. Anyway, we'll leave it between you and the department.
Yep.
Sort the finer details out. So we heard the motion. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Ward.
So just a few things from department head meeting. So our tourism department has been having meetings with the Seawall Trail consultant. Also working with an advisory group that's been meeting on the Cabot Trail 100 to finalize community engagement sessions in relation to that. And they are also arranging visits with new tourism operators and following up with their requests for information. In our recreation, so Chris has been organizing a fall edition of the Victoria County Walking Series. I think that's been popular in the past, and so going to be doing a fall one. And he's also organizing a multi-week family fun night program to be delivered at both Cape Smoky and North Highlands Elementary Schools. So you'll hear more about that. In our trails department, a trails update. So an RFP closed a couple of weeks ago. DM Rogers has been contracted as the successful bidder to complete work outlined in the RFP, which is known as upgrades 2 and 3 of the trail. And the work began this week and is scheduled to be in progress until about December. Our team has been working hard on planning for new counselor orientation. That the planning around it is well underway. We are planning on having facilitated sessions for council and management on November 14th and 15th, with the location to be determined. In our finance department, I have a couple of motions, so I'm just going to skip over that for a minute. In Public Works, received a quote from BioBurn to manage the brush on site in Dingwall, and brush is costly. So there's 5 weeks of processing material down there at quite an expense of about $126,000. Yeah. We are also looking at some energy efficiency upgrade tenders for the heating and lighting, which has been posted on our procurement site for all the different facilities that we have, all the buildings, this building and the transfer stations, to see if we can have a quick return on investment and rebates for some energy efficiency upgrades. Fraser District 5, we are going to continue with the planned route for garbage collection in your area there after doing some consultation and research in that area. In water, the old water tower in Dingwall has been decommissioned, and Larry, I'm looking into some things related to that for you. The source water protection signs have been ordered and will be installed at all water supplies that we have in the coming weeks. And in Parker's department, economic development, as you just heard, he's been working on this EV feasibility study and putting in another application for next steps. He's also working on, he's calling it Housing Accelerator Fund 2.0. We put in an earlier one on the Housing Accelerator Fund and we were not successful. So putting another one in relation to that after tweaking the one that we originally had. There's also a new, there's the Cape Breton Partnership website. The Welcome to Cape Breton website has been updated with an investors tab on that. So if anyone is an investor, go have a look at that. Cape Breton Partnership is also doing a business and breakfast, which is for the hospitality industry. It'll be held at the Frolic and Folk Pub in Iona on September 25th at 8:30, and encouraging registration for that. And they're also hosting a newcomer event, which will take place at Cape Smoky on 27th of September from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's some updates. Now, I just have a few things that are down in the motion section. I'm not sure if you want to get to that first or they're in my report, but I can wait to do a few motions if you'd like.
Let's do them under motions.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions or comments in regards to CAO's report this afternoon, Deputy Warden?
Leanne, I'm just wondering if we get an update on, or maybe email it out to us, just on the septic and if any decisions have been made on where it's going and whatnot. I don't know what the development or the engineers have come up with, but just any update would be greatly appreciated.
Yep, will do.
Thanks.
Councillor McNeil.
Yeah, that's in my stuff, but I'll be waiting.
That's correspondence.
Well, it's going to I don't have it written in the motions, but it's going to be.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we move on? I'm going to move on to district concerns and start with Councillor Organ, please.
Thank you. Just before I start, I'd like to thank all the councillors. It's been a great 4 years, and hopefully I'll be at this table again. But to those who aren't returning, all the help that you've given me over the last 4 years and the friendships that we made, thank you very much. So my district concerns. I had the privilege of being invited to the Highland Manor for a question and answer period in the afternoon. Some of the concerns that were brought up, and I've spoken to Councillor Daphne there too, and he gave me some answers. But the timeline on the new build, when the tender will be signed, what are the plans for the old manor? Does the municipality have any plans for this building? There will be a room in the new building with a hair salon. They're wondering if that could be made into like removable so that this room could be used for the dentist office, eye exam room, a hearing aid, and a community adult program space. They will be coming to council and the new council in the near future, asking if there's going to be any funds for such things. I spoke to Councillor McLeod also, and she gave me some information that they're waiting. They were looking for to use the transit bus, and they were wondering why they couldn't get a driver on the weekends and if they could use it. So I do have that information, and I passed it off to them. Along with Councillor Longva and Warden Morrison, we attended the library meeting in Ingonish, and as we heard today, it was a great success, and hopefully we can build on what they are looking for. I've contacted Mr. McDonald about the following, but I just wanted to reflect in the minutes. There is a at the end of Fairview Road in New Haven, there is a no exit sign, and it's confusing to tourists because it's kind of facing the main road. So they get there and they turn around in the middle of the road, and it's potentially have an accident there. Also, a sign for the community of White Point. Right now, there's just an arrow at the intersection, so a sign for the community would be nice since I can't get a no parking sign for their bus stop. It was also asked about a road in Ingonish that gets no plowing or gravel. They claim it is a public road, and I've asked for clarification. I also contacted Steve about brush cutting and a speed reduction in Ingonish. I also sent a request to Steve and the Cape Breton Victoria Center for Education to have a school bus stop sign posted in White Point, so the cars they're going to slow down there. I have a few motions that I'd like to put forward. It's going to be like Christmas here for District 7. Yeah, Christmas in September. I, Council Organ, move that $3,000 be taken from my district budget to be given to the following: $1,000 to St. Andrew's Anglican Church, $1,000 to St. John's Anglican Church, and $1,000 to the Ingonish United Church.
We have a seconder for that motion, please. Deputy Warden is seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion's carried.
I, Council Organ, move that $2,000 be taken out of my district budget for the following: $1,000 for the Neils Harbor New Haven Volunteer Fire Department and $1,000 for the North Ingonish Volunteer Fire Department.
We have a seconder for that.
Second.
Councillor McDonald is seconded. All in favor?
Your voice transformation.
It was Barb, sorry. Excuse me.
I'd like to also $500 out of my district budget to go to Cabot Education Center. $500 to the Ingonish Development Society for the Huckle Buckle. And $500 to the St. Andrew's Anglican Church Women for their children's Christmas party. And that is the end. Thank you. I'm broke now, yeah.
$500 to St. Andrews ACW for their children's Christmas activities.
Well spent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Longba, and I'm sorry that Councillor Longba did second that motion. The second motion, my apologies.
Well, Councillor Organ was the long-winded one tonight. I for a change have no district concerns other than to say that this is going to be my last meeting of council ever. And because
Try not to sound too happy there.
I'm very excited because I have a new granddaughter that lives in Vancouver, and I'm leaving in a week to go visit her. But I just wanted to say that has been an honor and a privilege to represent District 4 for the last 4 years, and it was a big learning curve for me. And thank you to all the fellow councilors and staff for all their help. So good luck with the next 4 years.
Thank you, and thank you for serving your district. Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Gordon, thank you. Just a few things this afternoon. There's a street light repair request at 1935 Base St. Lawrence Road. I contacted Nova Scotia Power myself and submitted the request online, but just like the municipality follow up as well, because they said that it was a municipal street light, so it had to come from the municipality. If they could send the request in, they would get the work order process as soon as they can. I was wondering also if we can maybe get task the CAO to touch base with our MLA Keith Bain in regard to the funding aspect from the province for the groomer for North Highlands Nordic. The municipality is on board as along with ACOA, and there's been talks with the MLA with regard to that there's funding coming from the province, but nothing set in stone concrete. And as we discussed at a meeting earlier, that time is of the essence, because before we know it, the snow will be flying in the north and the season will be opening for skiing. If there's a way we could just maybe send a reminder notice to see if there's any update on that, please. Another concern I have is in regard to, I don't know if it's a municipal issue, but with Cape North Community Center, which is now vacant. I do believe that the non-for-profit that was in there is no longer functioning. They're wondering what is the process? Who owns the assets within the building if another nonprofit wishes to start up or take it over, and how do they go about obtaining the rights to do that? I know it's kind of a hard question, but I didn't know how to answer. The previous group that was in there, I think, is no longer functioning, because they put a post out on social media some time back that they weren't able to make ends to make it functional anymore. But now it's just a building that's sitting there, which is defunct. And there are other organizations that wish to go in, but they don't know the steps. So I thought maybe if they contacted Joint Registry of Stocks, perhaps, or
Yeah, so it depends on how defunct they are, I think. But I think that first off, they should contact the not-for-profit group that owns it to see their interest in disposing of it.
right. So I don't even think they have a functioning board now. So it's a community meeting probably the best resolve there, maybe.
Well, I know that in regards to remember when the Baddeck Community Club owned the tennis court? There had to be a meeting of the surviving members of the board. Yeah, so I can look up those steps of what had to be done to take those next steps.
That would be great. I would appreciate that.
There had to be some correspondence between the two formally transferring assets, et cetera. So, but anyway, yeah.
Because it's quite a large building.
Yeah.
Just to say.
The old one, the previous one, has to meet whoever's there and make a motion to dissolve and organization.
Right.
You might want to check the registry. Issues.
Right.
Okay,
That's how we
you're
prefer.
clear? Yep.
I think that's it. And just like Councillor Longba had said, I was very honored to sit at this table for the last 8 years. I'm not one to get emotional, although sometimes, you know, it kind of does get me. Proudly represented District 8 and going forward, made some great municipal friends, and I wish the next incoming councillor all the very best. And I just want to thank everybody sitting around the table and staff for helping me in my journey, learning about municipal politics. It was a major eye opener. So thank you very much. And that's it for District 8, sir.
You're very proud of the way you served your community. You did an excellent job, sir. True gentleman. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, Warden. I got a couple of motions I want to make. Number one, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of appreciation to Ann and Keith Huzzy of Ingonish. They provided the location for the library for, Jesus, more than 30 years. I'm not sure. It's been a long time anyway. And I talked to Ann here about a week ago about it. And, you know, because people are making comments that the rent was so low. And she said it never had anything to do about the rent. It had to do about offering a service to the community. So there's times, I'm sure there's months that she probably took a loss on the property. But I would like to make that a motion, that a letter of appreciation just for all their community service and providing the library to Ingonish. It was greatly appreciated.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, sir.
Councillor McDonald has seconded that. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried.
I also like to note Ann was getting a lot of calls about the amount of rent, and just to clarify, it was $400, which included tax for the library, and I think it was $370 for the building inspector's office. So she didn't make any money on that. That's for sure, and greatly appreciate all the work that her and Keith did for the community. Next, I'd also like to make a motion that $500 from my district budget be given to Cabot High School to assist with their food program for students. I'll make that a motion.
We have a seconder for that. Councillor McLeod, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried.
Also like to have $500, make a motion that $500 be given to the North of Smoky Food Bank. Make that a motion.
We have a seconder for that. Anything under 1,000, you don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was giving out 1,000 until I realized I hadn't
Okay.
said it, so.
Seconded by Councillor Longba, just so you know.
Okay.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried.
Greatly appreciate it. I'm now bankrupt. I'm good. Two other motions. Number one, dealing with the new Highland Manor. We're in the process of step 5 of waiting for the province to give us permission to go to tender. So we're very close, but we have been looking at some other lands that may be required in order to get Department of Environment to give us permission for septic and drainage and whatnot. Probably about 14 years ago, probably back in 2010, I think council here, there was a piece of property directly below the Highland Manor. That was up for sale, and the council decided that time to buy that property in case we ever wanted to expand the manor. Good news is we're not expanding, but we are in the process of building a new manor up behind it. But that land is very crucial to that manor because drainage and septic and whatnot. So I'd like to make a motion that staff look into transferring PID number 850-53874 from the municipality of the County of Victoria to the Highland Manor Housing Corporation. And I make that a motion.
We have a seconder for that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Organ has seconded that. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Sorry, you okay?
It's just.
And second motion is also dealing with Highland Manor. Presently, some of the septic for the old Highland Manor is on a small little sliver of land that goes along the road. It's PID number 85053866, and it's presently owned by the Nova Scotia Housing Commission, which is actually Department of Housing. But anyway, we also would like to make a motion that staff work in cooperation with MLA Bain's office to see what the process would be to have that land transferred over to the Highland Manor Housing Corporation also. So I make that a motion.
Did you get the PID number and everything? You good?
I'll write it up.
We have a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor McNeil. All in favor? Contrary minded?
And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McLeod, anything down there?
I have the last 2 weekends my children are in 4-H, so they were in the reusable center, volunteering, and we didn't realize how lucky we have to have all their stuff donated. But the same time, it's getting out of the hand. It's a lot of stuff there. Some stuff there outside, and they leave it in tarps. So I think it's very time consuming too for the staff. And just wonder if the staff and I was thinking about either if we could inform, because some volunteers approached me to see if we could have a committee to help them, to the reusable center, to help them organize or something, like the community have a community committee to help the reusable center. And another thing is we need a little more space. So wonder if we can make some numbers to see if we can expand a little bit, just to put the big items as dressers, everything. So make it more easier for the organizations to come, and they have to set up at 8 to open at 9. So the another thing is if a staff could give them like a list to do, because they think they just show up at 9 o'clock and that's it. No, you have to come at 8, you have to set up, and then in the end you have to clean up and you have to leave it like how you find it. So they don't know about that. So so when you have the organizations, just send an email, say we're expecting this, and make it easy for everybody.
Yeah, I'll pass that on for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
And thank you for recognizing, because staff do put a lot of time into that. And it is, the money that is raised is
It's
unbelievable. So it's a great project.
Yeah.
And
like some shelves, maybe, not like a fancy, just regular shelf to put the items and classify. But I think that will be more for a committee, like volunteers, and they can either, that way work it out with that.
Yep. I will pass that on as well, and we'll be in touch.
That is great. Thank you.
It's a condition of, maybe you have a written condition of agreement as part of participating in the program, is that you comply with the recommendations. Make it written. And while we're talking about the reuse center, we should recognize former councillor Grant, who came up with, really, it was your leadership that led to locating that down there. So well done, sir.
Thank you.
10, 12 years later, it's your legacy.
Yeah, I remember when I just started, they were talking about it. So yeah, for that. Thank you, Ethel. Another one, when new council will come, just to leave it. So for the noise bylaw, they're asking a few areas. So just leave it there for the next council to work it out, if they're going to be as in the planning or the zoning. So it's all that stuff. So it's going to be one of the conversations the people is talking.
Put it on the agenda for new council.
The agenda for new council.
Okay, we can do that.
And Barb, I know what you say, coming in the next meeting. Thank you so much for everything, for the experience, the laughs, and you make the council fun. And we want to miss you. If I'm here, I will miss you. And everybody, thank you so much for all the support of these 4 years. Without you guys, I think I would not was here. And Bruce, you don't want to be here, but thank you so much. I'm going to be emotional, sorry. You be a teacher, you experienced Larry, Paul, Norm, we start together, and let you go is like, okay, what I'm doing here. And thank you so much for support, experience, friendship, happiness, frustrations. So, and the staff, thank you so much too. We learn a lot. We come with an idea that we're going to maybe change the county, and we realize there is small steps, learn, and then to act. So it's a journey, and I'm going to miss you guys.
Thank you very much for the kind words.
Hopefully we're here, and but Jackie, so we'll where we will try again. So the people would talk and we'll choose.
Good luck to you as well. And thanks for the kind words on behalf of council and staff.
Thank you.
Councillor Patterson, what do you have?
Thank you, Warden. Bruce, Larry, Paul, Norm, and Barb. I have one major concern that you will not be replaced with Toronto Maple Leaf fans. And that could change the whole tenor of council into the future. Seriously, it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. We, I think, work together, but there are also times when we disagree, and that's what it's all about. You discuss and sometimes argue, even maybe if you want to use that word. But what happens in a democracy is you come to the best answer, hopefully, most of the time, not 100% of the time probably, but most of the time. So thank you very much for really, Bruce, what, the last 2 decades, really, believe it or not. I mean, anyway, and I wish you all well, and I hope we keep in touch. A couple of things. It's been a busy summer in District 5. We started out in July 1st with our Canada Day party at the Marine Park, and we had over 600 people attend. Big Brador had the big wave ceremony, and New Hamilton had the little wave ceremony, and someone at this table won the poker run. I won't mention any names, Barb, but that was another event. And then finally, we closed off with Labor Day at the Marine Park in Ross Ferry. We had over 700 people at that event, and the Turnbull brothers played for us. So it was a very, very excellent day. Weather was great. The stewardships, and the reason I'm quoting those things is because the municipality supported all of them. The Stewardship Society, which is the managing body of the Marine Park, had its annual meeting last week, and Chris Woodford came in attendance, talking about recreational opportunities and so on. The names of Dan Coffin and Colleen Wayland Smith came up, the help they were to the people there. So kudos to them. Leanne, you can give them a raise if you want. I mean, it's up to you. Finally, on a kind of a more serious note, I guess, I've heard some rumors, and I think the warden has too, because she replied to some correspondence, the school board fees, and there doesn't seem to me to be much clarity. I know some groups have used the schools with no fees, no charge. Other groups have been charged or are being charged, I guess. So there doesn't seem to be a consistent pattern. My stand is $2 million, Alex, or has Alex gone, or 2-point-some million we pay to the school board. Plus, we own the schools. The Center for Education doesn't own them. We do. So I would like a letter. I would move that we write a letter to Susan Kelly, the executive director of the Quebec Center for Education, if that's the name of it now. I'm not even sure. Just inquiring about the fee schedules, or if there is one, or there seems to be confusion. And Bruce, I believe you heard some rumors too, increases.
I just heard some concerns through the community, but I know Councillor McLeod also heard something too, but I'm not sure. I think we just follow through with the letter. It'll allay everybody's questions. We're not saying that what we're hearing is accurate. We're just looking for clarification what they're bringing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I would make that a motion.
Yeah, just for clarification, before discussion.
Yes.
I talked to the school today, and the organizations that are not in the school, they have a charge for use the facilities. They're at $30, and now right now when you booked, go to $100. But Mr. Mulder was saying it's a glitch in the system, so it's an error right now, and the office knows about that. And I'm just talking about Baddeck Academy. I can't talk with other schools, but he say because we don't have a community centers, the gym is the most on demand, so they book first all the activities for the children, and the sports and the free times they will booked for the organizations, nonprofits, or whatever kind you said, but it's charging $30. And but for the school activities and sports is zero, nothing. So just to clarify, it's a glitch right now for that $100 that people is talking about. It's a glitch in the system.
So thank you for that. And that just speaks to the confusion that's around
Yeah,
it. So to
exactly.
your point, we'll
Yeah.
ask for a letter of clarification from the school board in regard to the rental policy to organizations, community groups. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Seconded by Councillor Longvest. Sorry, she beat you to the buzzer there. So, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Anything else, sir? Thank you, Councillor McNeil. Is your mic on, sir?
There's only one more meeting. Yeah. Just to start off, I received an email about the British Home Child Day. They're having a reunion on the 28th of September. And they asked the municipality to participate in the Beacons of Light ceremony, if they could have the courthouse lit up, maybe with the Christmas lights or whatever for that day. And also if they could have a little write-up on our website and their social media page. I'll forward that on to you. Finally, tomorrow, I will be getting together with Steve McDonald for a tour of the area roads. Our last tour together, so yeah, I started with roads and I'll end with roads. So hopefully, it's been delayed due to personal issues, so hopefully tomorrow it'll be done. Also, after 17 years, I'm officially not a candidate in the upcoming election. So first of all, I'd like to thank the constituents of District 1 trusting me for 17 years. It was a pleasure to serve the district. Not only District 1, but all of the residents in Victoria County for their cooperation and input into the municipality too. Although we're elected in a district, we work together to basically for the betterment of the whole county. We have to understand that too. Sometimes it won't work out for your district, sometimes it will, but it has to be, everybody has to realize that we're looking at the betterment of the county. Again, I want to thank all the staff too. For the last 17 years, especially the present staff. Like I often said, we're fortunate to have the best staff in Nova Scotia, municipal staff. And I'll always say that. I'm kind of getting emotional here too. Finally, my fellow councillors over the past 17 years, past and present, I consider them all lifelong friends. And we've been through, like Councillor Patterson said, we might not agree with everything, but we come out and we shake one another's hands as colleagues at the end. And I think not all councils can say that. And we've had, I'd say, one of the best councils over the past 17 years. And also for a couple that helped me in Ottawa too, I'd like to thank them too, because I went through not a good situation there. So.
For sure.
Thank you to everybody.
Okay. Thank you. So I have a couple of district concerns. I will call them my final requests. Because they are, I swear, they are to the Department of Transportation. And I've asked for these for many months, if not for the last year. And for that reason, I'm asking that they be captured here today, make a motion that we contact Steve McDonald. There's severe washout along the road and the sidewalk at 138 Twining Street. I've brought to their attention at least 3 times. Gone to the office, sent emails, still not fixed. There is a manhole cover at the Masonic Hall and at Greenwood Church that both just need to be reseeded with asphalt. They're main streets of this community. They're busy streets next to a church, next to the Masonic Hall, and I don't know how somebody hasn't, there hasn't been some kind of incident there. So I would make that a motion that we bring those to the attention of local manager of Department of Transportation Public Works.
Motion on the floor. Do you have a seconder for that motion?
Chris.
Seconder by Councillor McLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion passed.
I also have 2 no camping signs that are available to whoever wants them. There'd be no camping in my yard, as far as I know, and but we had a number of them made. I had a couple, and like other councillors said, and I spoke earlier today, and I could belabor the point, but I really do want to thank the residents of District 3. It's been 27 years. 11 as councillor and 16 as warden. And it's been a great experience. And that's due to the former councillors that are here. And it's due to the current councillors that are here. And to your point, we don't always agree, but we always had great councils. We have great staff. And I just want to recognize everybody contributes. Everybody was equal. Everybody had a district. And that's why it worked. So with that, we're going to move on to motions. We had a public hearing for the yard sale. And we need a motion to approve the second reading for the yard sale bylaw.
Will we accept second reading of the yard sale bylaw?
Have a seconder for that, please?
I second that.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. We have a borrowing resolution, 2 of them. So I will let Leanne just speak to both of them. We will do individual motions for each one.
Yeah, so I guess it's for one project and there's 2 different papers that need to be signed. So 2 different resolutions. So we did construction of the Dingwall water tower, and it was discussed at budget meeting capital planning that we would borrow some of the money for doing that. So we're going to contact, or to go to the province, we need a TBR, or a temporary borrowing resolution for that. So if you'll bear with me for this, or I guess it was sent to you all and you would have had it, but a resolution for pre-approval of debenture issuance subject to interest rate, whereas clause 66 of the MGA provides that the municipality may borrow to carry out an authority to expend funds for capital purposes conferred by the Act or another act of the legislature, whereas clause 91(1)(a) of the Act provides where a municipality is authorized to borrow money subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, that the sum shall be borrowed by the issue and sale of debentures in one sum or by installments as determined by council, and whereas clause 91(1)(b) of the MGA authorizes council to determine the amount and term of interest rate on each debenture when the interest on debenture is to be paid and where the principal and interest on a debenture are to be paid. And whereas clause 91(2) of the MGA states that in accordance with the Finance Act, the mayor or warden and clerk or person designated by council by policy shall sell and deliver the debentures on behalf of the municipality at the price, in the sums and in the manner deemed proper. And whereas the resolution of council to borrow for was approved by municipal council on September 16th, 2024. Be it therefore resolved that under the authority of section 91 of the MGA, the municipality of the County of Victoria borrow by the issue and sale of debentures a sum or sums not exceeding 150,000 for the period not to exceed 10 years, subject to the approval of the minister, that the sum be borrowed by the issue and sale of debentures of the municipality and County of Victoria in the amount that the mayor or warden and clerk or the person designated by the council deems proper, provided the average interest rate of a debenture not to exceed the rate of 6.5%, that the debenture be arranged with the province of Nova Scotia with interest to be paid semi-annually and interest and principal payments made annually, that this resolution remains in force for a period not exceeding 12 months from the passing of this resolution.
So we need a motion to approve that resolution. Moved by Councillor McNeil. Second by the Deputy Warden. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Where do you want me to sign?
So.
Right here.
Yep. And then the second one says the same thing. It's the TBR. So what I just said in the second one as well.
So for the
So
second,
it's the same 150,000. So authorization to borrow on behalf of the municipality, 150,000 for the Dingwall water tower.
we have somebody wish to make a motion. Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by
Oh, sorry. Who are we borrowing from? I'm looking at
The
it.
province,
From
municipal
the
finance.
province, okay. Municipal finance.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So this is for the Dingwall Tower.
Yep.
We need a second. Councillor McDonald, a second. That all in favor? Contrary minded, motion's carried. I don't, it's just the clerk's signature that's required. Okay, we're going to move on to the land use bylaw, amendment planning standards, first reading. So with I will just give you a brief. I met with Leanne this morning. This issue has been in existence since 2018. I'm just going to read you a little background so we're all clear, and just keep in mind that the first reading is to move the process forward. Anybody that has written or wishes to make oral presentations can do that at our second reading. But having said that, we have to have this completed by September 30th, and we have taken numerous recommendations already. We've already incorporated a lot of those recommendations, so we should be down to the final hour, so to speak. And I would encourage anybody that has written presentations, they can forward them into the CAO or to. So in 2018, the province of Nova Scotia changed Bill 58 that the Municipal Government Act expand the planning and development to ensure that every municipality develops and adopts a minimum planning strategy to govern planning throughout the municipality and fulfill planning requirements as prescribed. 2021, Upland was hired by Eastern District Planning Commission, September, who came to council October. Upland came to council and gave an overview of the project. Proposed to have public survey, open houses, group discussions from October to January 2022. We held 5 meetings: Dingwall, Englishtown, Ingonish, which was virtual, and Iona, introduced online survey and interactive map. We received approval from the province to have until September 30th, 2024, which is the end of this month, to approve our MPS and land use bylaw. At this point, it was felt not enough community consultation was reached, so we requested Upland to go out for a further round of consultations. Workshops continued past January and held throughout 2022 and 2023, where a draft document was produced, inviting feedback from the public. A mail out to all residents in the municipality was sent out. The website was also updated. 5 more stakeholder sessions were added in 2023, along with sessions of Eastern District Planning Commission and interested surveyors. Draft documents were available in June 2023. 2024, from stakeholders' community feedback, the final draft has been completed. So it leaves us today with the first reading. So we need a motion to accept the first reading, and then it will go to second reading, which will be held on October 7th, and it will be a public hearing. So
Just Warden, before we go, I wonder if Mr. Bain has any comments to make. John, would you have anything to tell us, or?
perhaps, John, if you would come up to the mic, please. Sorry, this for those who don't know, if the people are joining us virtually, John Bain is director of the Eastern District Planning Commission.
He's an expert witness, Mr. Warden.
Thank you, Counselor.
Turn it on.
Great. There you go. Thank you, Counselor. The warden summarized this pretty well, the history of the document. We're for first reading, as you would know already, is just really to move it along in the process. So the intent of this afternoon is to get that first advertisement, that first reading, so we can get advertisement on your municipal webpage and in some local papers for the public hearing.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about process, but really we should not be discussing the content of the document because that would be for the public hearing. The only other thing, as you were going around the table and the number were mentioning that they weren't going to be here, that this was in fact their last council meeting. At council, for second reading to pass that document, you need a majority of the whole of council. So that's just something to keep in mind if we just have a simple majority at that public hearing. Only the members who were at the public hearing can vote on it, and you would need unanimous to pass it if you only have a simple majority at council. So it is a majority of the whole of council that would pass it.
And
If there are any questions, if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them about
so
this.
just to clarify, as long as we have a majority of councillors here on October 7th for the second reading, that's all that is required, as long as it's unanimous.
That's correct. But but it has to be a majority of the whole of council, right? So if you only have a simple majority and you have a couple that vote against it, and you only have, even though you've got a majority of the councillors present, you don't have a majority of the whole council, it would fail.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Warren, just to be clear then, so it's like an Elijah Harper moment, right? You know, the Manitoba legislature, when he put up the feather and the whole thing collapsed, if one of the five.
Yeah, unless you, that's correct. Unless you have a whole, unless in fact you had, if you had everybody here, then a simple majority is a majority of the whole of council. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Any
Hopefully
other
nobody's gonna be.
Thank you for that, John, and for the clarification. It's good for those that are here, both on council and from the public that wish to make submissions. We heard it here from the director. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
We decide who's going to be here for October 7th before the process takes place.
Yes, but that's something we can do when we schedule the meeting.
It'll work.
It may not be October, so we might, it has to be within that 2 week, at least within 2.
Sorry.
We will make sure you're present because we know that there's going to be some. Yeah, we'll sort out the date with the CAO and make sure that we have. Okay. Thank you for that, and thanks, John, for 27 years of working with you. So.
Thank you, Warden. You were the chair of the board a number of occasions, and always appreciated your guidance with district planning. So thank you, and to all of council.
Thanks. Highland Manor, I'm sorry, we need a motion to pass the first reading. Thank you.
Select that. Oh, good.
So
It's been moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor McNeil. All in favor? Motion is carried. It's like the last day in school for some of us. Sorry. Highland Manor, we need a motion to forgive a loan that we forgave a long time ago.
I can make that a motion.
Thank you very much. And I think the amount was $45,000.
I'll second that.
I don't know if you want to give a little background on that, just in case there is somebody that might be joining us virtually and weren't aware of what the request was. Sorry.
This is, it didn't rain today, yeah. The municipality granted a $45,000 loan to Highland Manor in 2019. It was an interest-free loan with no specified repayment term. Highland Manor is our building, so we do own that corporation. And that was why they were having a shortfall and they needed a bridge, so we lent them the money. In May 2021, the former administrator of Highland Manor wrote a letter to request forgiveness of this loan, and I believe that got lost in translation somewhere along the line because there's no record in council minutes to approve this loan forgiveness, so the loan continues to be recorded in both Highland Manor and the municipality's financial statements. Given the length of time since the initial loan, along with the prior request for forgiveness, collection of the balance outstanding is probably unlikely. So we are recommending that this balance would be forgiven, but you've already made a motion on it.
Thank you. So. That was for information purposes. Thank you very much. Write-off taxes for duplicate property. I'll let CAO. Oh, I'm sorry. It was moved by Councillor McLeod, and it was seconded by Councillor McNeil. I'm sorry.
Oregon.
Made the motion for the manor to forgive the tax and Jackie seconded.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. It's been moved by Councillor Longven, seconded by Councillor Horgan that the loan be forgiven. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion's carried. Thank you for providing the background information. Write-off taxes for duplicate property.
Yeah, so I've received a request from our revenue coordinator downstairs. So this is the proposal to council. We have an account that is on our records that is assessed to Elizabeth Murphy with an AAN listed to you. There's outstanding taxes since 2002, which totaled $5,032.63 plus monthly interest that will be added on the first of each month. PVSC has been contacted about this account as Property Online says it does not exist. And they said that this account will be deactivated or deleted for 2025 because it's the same property that's already being taxed. It's a glitch in the system. So we're making a recommendation that these taxes be written off in full as well, as it's impossible to collect.
Go to the motion to write this.
All been forwarded to you and forwarded on.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Sorry. Okay, so we received a request from. We received a request from Wagmacook. Wagmacook is hosting a powwow and they have made a request for sponsorship to the powwow. There are several levels of sponsorship from Wagmacook First Nation. First level is Raven North direction could either be from anywhere from $100 to $4,999. Next level is Bear, $5,000 to $9,999. Third is Wolf, $10,000 to $24,999. And the fourth is Eagle, which is $25,000 or more. Wondering what your appetite is for sponsorship of a Wagmacook powwow that is taking place September 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Yeah, I recommend that we go with the Bear 5,000 minimum amount. They bring the powwows do bring in a lot of visitors to the area and to the municipality. So I recommend that we give $5,000. Make a motion that we.
5,000 is the second level.
The Bear.
Oh, the Bear level. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
The Bear.
So the motion is that we provide sponsorship to the powwow for $5,000.
Yep.
Do we have a seconder for that, please?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor McLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded, the motion is carried. The sponsorship has been approved. Any questions from the public?
No, committee reports out, Warden. Please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
The offenses.
You have a committee report?
Sorry. The Offenses Arbitration Committee met last week. Actually, we had two meetings since the last council meeting. The first one was a complaint we received regarding sheep and cattle. Letters were sent to the both parties, and so far we've heard nothing back. Although Councilor McLeod may have had some contact with the complainant, I guess, the person who owns the cattle or whatever, anyway. But we haven't, nothing's been finalized in that. We met last week, and this was a second offense, I guess we could call it. I did speak to the landowner. The committee decided to set up a site visit to see what the situation was. We're trying to arrange that as we speak. Leanne, the question for you, what is the amount where we have to put out for a tender or request for proposals or whatever? Is it $20,000? In excess of 20,000?
Well, it depends. So for a service, it is up to 25,000. Yes.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not sure. We're just looking into the future. If the landowner doesn't comply, we have the right to hire someone to either erect a fence or repair a fence or whatever has to be done to keep the cattle in. And then we bill the landowner. But I'm assuming we would have to hire the people to do that and probably even pay them. I don't know what arrangement could be made and until it all kind of sorts through. And we're just looking into the future. Maybe it'll be solved this time. We don't know for sure until we make the visit, but I just wanted to bring council up to speed on that. It's an interesting thing, and you know, it mentions in the act public safety, and there is an aspect of public safety because, as one of our committee members, a black cow at dusk or in the night, you know, is a pretty hard target to miss if you're driving along, and if someone gets injured or killed, you know, then the whole thing takes on a different story. So again, we're going to visit the landowner, try to convince him that he has to do more to keep his cattle contained. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you for that report. My apologies for overlooking that, sir. Any other committee reports? We're good. Any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am. We haven't said it yet. It will be probably the week of October 7th. Sorry. Yes, you could. Yeah, you can submit written. Yep. And you can submit them to the CAO, please. Any other questions or comments before we have them? We are going in camera. So going once, going twice. No questions online. So I will ask you to leave the courtroom as we need a motion to go in camera for a few minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to go in camera.
Thank you, Councillor Longva. We have a seconder for that, please. Second by Councillor McDonald.